What's up guys, Elfis here, and today we are going to be doing another HoN tips. This one is going to be for microing with Ophelia. However, a lot of the little tips that I'll talk about also apply to microing with other heroes such as Wild Soul, War Beast, although he doesn't really require much micro, Keeper of the Forest, things like that. Or, you know, Puzzle Box minions if you wanted to go that route on a number of heroes. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. So first of all, what is a control group? Control groups refer to the ability to quickly select units. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make them. First of all, if I select a unit or a group of units, you can do that as well, keep that in mind. If I select a unit and I press control, I hold control and then I press a number, in this case I'm going to use 1. Now if I were to select this bird, my little winged courier, and I press 1, it instantly reselects whatever I had tailored to 1, in this case Ophelia. Now that's the way to make a control group. You can also add units to a control group without deleting what is already in the control group. Now if I select the bird and I press 1, it brings up Ophelia. If I select these guys and I hold shift and I press 1, now if I select the bird and I press 1, it selects all 4 of them, which you can see down here in the bottom right. Now the other thing you can do when you're in a control group, i.e. one with multiple units, not a single unit, it doesn't work with one unit because you only have one unit, but so essentially you can cycle through the units. Now if you'll note, when you select a control group with your hero in it, for example if I have the bird selected, the courier, sorry, and I press 1, it instantly highlights the hero as the main unit that I want, and that's perfect. That's a good idea that the game came up with. A lot of games, a lot of MOBAs do that. I think they all do, but so that's good because your hero has the most skills. However, if I want to, for example, use these guys that are in the same control group without having to make separate control groups for every one of them, that's bothersome, and nobody wants to have 6 keys set up for, you know, all your things, and it's just annoying, really. So the easy way to do it, and another good idea that MOBAs came up with, as well as RTS games, but I'm not sure who actually came up with it, but it's irrelevant, really. So you have your whole group selected, and you can cycle through them. It depends on what you change your hotkeys to. The default hotkey in HoN is tab. If I tab, it cycles through them in order down here on the right, and then of course if I press tab again it'll shoot back to Ophelia. So you can cycle through them quickly using all their skills, for example, if I so desired. Now then, that's the default hotkey. If you changed it, you should know what your own hotkey is, so I'm not going to cover that. You can change them in the controls. If you go to, for example, main menu, options, and then you go to controls, you can change it here. Next unit is what it's called. So if you so desire, you can pick a different unit. However, I'm going to get back to the tips. So that's how you can make control groups and cycle through your units and things of that nature. Cycling through your units is really key on Ophelia, otherwise I have to have a separate control group for every one of my minions, because they all, not all of the creeps you could take over in the jungle, but the vast majority of the ones you would want to take over have skills that you want to use and utilize as Ophelia, because without those skills she's really not as strong as she would be otherwise. For example, Minotaur, he's okay, but without the stun, he's not all that great. So we have all our ideas behind it. Now, how do you set up your Ophelia hotkeys? This is where it gets specifically tailored to Ophelia, so sorry for everybody else watching. How do you set up your Ophelia hotkeys? Well, the easiest way to set up your Ophelia hotkeys, I think, is to do it like this. I do 1 as my Ophelia as well as the creeps I'm controlling, and I add them in as I'm going. For example, at level 1 you can only have 1 creep. You know, the higher level I get, I add in all my creeps to my main control group. Then I have that set for 1, because that's instantly what I go to all the time. I love 1. For then, my next hotkey for 2, I use just Ophelia. 1, 2 is just Ophelia. So that way I can click to do it, and then pull Ophelia back if I so desire. Pull Ophelia back if I want, you know? So I don't have to send Ophelia. Some people like to do 1 for Ophelia and group, 2 for Ophelia, 3 for just group of minions, and then 4 for courier. That's how I think a lot of people do it. I don't see the need. I think you can just quickly do this and then pull Ophelia away once you get a little good at it. You only lose a bit of, like, you know, milliseconds of time that Ophelia's, you know, milliseconds, half seconds, whatever, that Ophelia is following where the creeps were going. So, you know, for example, if you're being chased, you want your creeps to distract them, but you want Ophelia to get away. Ophelia is what really matters. So some people like to have just the creeps on. I think it's a bit more troublesome for beginners. I'm not that great at micro, so I like to have them all in 1, and then I'll just quickly select Ophelia and pull her away. You can do it however you like, but this is how I do it. So I have 1 for the group and Ophelia, 2 for just Ophelia, 3 for the courier. Now, the other thing you can do, some people do this, I don't like doing it simply because, well, actually I'll explain it first. you can set, and the default key, of course, again, I'm not going to cover your key specifically, but same thing, you can go in the menu and change it. The default key is the tilde, and for those of you who don't know what tilde is, it's the key next to 1, to the left of 1. It cycles through the units you have control of that can shop. So what that means is these guys are not in that list because they don't have any item slots. They can't carry items for you. They can't shop. So I have Ophelia selected. If I press tilde, it'll jump to the courier. If I press tilde again, it'll jump back to Ophelia. Now, a lot of people did that, and I do that. I used to do that when I started out. I've since stopped because if a hero disconnects on your team, you have control of that hero. And when you have control of that hero, it adds it to the list, and it gives it priority over the courier. So what I would be doing a lot of the time is I would have my hero selected, I would tilde, buy something with my hotkeys, because I have a lot of the hotkeys memorized. I would, quick, buy a bottle or whatever. If somebody disconnected early, I'd, be mid, and I'd buy a bottle, and then I'd click E to send it, but I wouldn't have the courier selected. I'd have a hero selected, and then I'd have to sell it back, and then, buy it on the courier, and I'd lose a few seconds. So you can do it if you want. I would not recommend it. I would recommend having the courier on its own hotkey. I would recommend, I use 1 for Ophelia in group, 2 for Ophelia, 3 for courier. Some people use 1 for Ophelia in group, 2 for Ophelia, 3 for group, and then of course 4 for courier. I don't think it's necessary, but hey, if that's the way you want to learn it, that's fine. I think at high tier, those half seconds you're losing of Ophelia walking may be necessary. So, Chessie, for example, for those of you who don't know, he's debatably the best Ophelia player in the world. I'd love to see how he sets up his hotkeys. I don't think he's going to tell me, but I'd love to see how he sets them up. He might actually have that set up. I'm not sure. But either way, that is how you micro with Ophelia. Now, microing itself, you're going to have to get used to. You can cycle through and, use your skills, and you kind of just have to get used to it, and it takes practice. So feel free to play some practice games, play against bots. Now they have the bots you can play against, Practice up your microing. It's a key skill if you're going to play Ophelia. If you can't micro well as Ophelia, you're very, very, very gimped, if not entirely useless. But either way, this has been another HoN Tips. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to post below. Ask me in my inbox, in the comments, whatever. I'll be sure to answer them. I read every single one, and I usually respond to them, even if they don't warrant a response. But feel free. Other than that, that is all I wanted to cover. So I hope you guys enjoyed it once again. I hope you learned something once again. Sorry for the repetitiveness. And I will talk to you guys later. GG, well played, guys. Elfis out.